When you are born into wealth, you tend to develop in one of two ways. Either you follow in your parents' footsteps, trying to leave your inheritance in a better state than when you got it, or you go your own way, using the freedom this money gives you to find your true passion and pursue it. Johnye MacNamara never cared much for her family. Born in Denver, Colorado in the early 90s, she was the younger of two sisters, and she quickly found that she had very little in common with her sister or the rest of her family. Books, instead, became her source for entertainment and learning, and she often found herself engrossed in both classical and contemporary literature, her tastes soon expanding beyond prose to cover poetry and playwrights as well. And it was there, in the world of theater, where she truly blossomed. With her parents' wealth at her disposal, Johnye could surround herself with all that she needed. To her, theater was not simply beautiful words and emotions poured into acting, but an entire world of clothing, of stage decor, and of directions. Johnye was not satisfied being a simple actor either, and as she joined her high school drama club, she turned the troupe of unskilled enthusiasts into a force to be reckoned with. They saw the leadership and vision within her stretching far beyond their own, and soon they were performing regularly at a level previously unheard of. Johnny's talent was obvious, but like an uncut gem, it was flawed, and her stories lacked the depth and complexity that so many of her favorite works displayed. Her characters were often flat, hastily thrown together vehicles for her own dreams and ambitions, and her plot borrowed heavily from her favorite books and stories. She spread herself thin, covering everything from costume design to stage direction, which at times caused her immense stress. Her passion was a flame upon which she threw more and more fuel, turning it into a roaring inferno that consumed her every waking hour. And it paid off. Johnye received a scholarship to attend the University of Colorado for her achievements with the drama club. The fledgling thespian departed for her higher studies, and it was there at the CU where her talent truly got a chance to expand. Perhaps it was the stress that had accumulated, or perhaps it was simply the change of environments, or a desire for fresh ideas. But at Colorado University, Johnye began to experiment with psychedelics and exploring strange philosophical ideas while under the influence. One of these ideas, coming to her after a particularly powerful bout of mushrooms, was a line of thought that would forever alter the course of her life. Johnye realized that reality itself is immutable, only life is the one variable that can change. And with this realization and the after effects of her high, she began to drastically alter her plays and style. While she had previously been zealous about her work, her focus shifted into an obsession. She needed the perfect directions, the perfect set design and lighting. It was about the situation, about the emotions, rather than the words and deeds. Her usually long and flowery lines were reduced to near nonsensical statements, and her audience often walked away from the overwhelming sensory experience befuddled and intrigued. Johnny's lifestyle was rapidly deteriorating as she consumed more and more illicit substances, shattering her mind and body and rebuilding it only after she'd received another grand vision for a play. People didn't understand the truths she now took for a given. How could they? She was the only one with the genius to see them, and despite the ridicule she suffered again and again for her vision, nothing could shatter the impenetrable confidence in her own artistic merit. When Alessandro Brunelleschi, a painter of grotesque and horrific art, stumbled upon her, he was immediately intrigued. He understood what she spoke of, and, more importantly, he saw the potential for greatness in her. He approached her, offering to tutor her and introduce her to a society that would appreciate her skills and vision. Johnye leapt at the offer, and so her future sire began to slowly prepare her for her life as a kindred. He didn't keep her as a ghoul, instead holding her on a short leash as he carefully doled out hints about his true nature, just enough to keep her curiosity piqued. When finally she was embraced, Johnye experienced the last and greatest trip of her life, punctuated by a wine glass shattered. However, Johnny's embrace was not perfect. When she arose from death, she never developed the fangs so common to her kind, thus rendering her unable to perform the bite that would lead to her feeding, nor did her skin develop this deathly pallor so common to her kind. Indeed, despite no longer breathing or having a pulse, her skin was more akin to that of a pale mortal. This troubled both her and her sire, but aside from this, she displayed all normal attributes of one of her kind, and the young Toreador soon found that there were other, creative ways to slake her thirst. For the next 7 years, she was tutored rigorously in How to be a Kindred by Alessandro, who wasted no time instructing her in Camarilla traditions and knowledge. She found the constant scheming and politicking of the vampires amusing, reminding her about her time in the drama club. Despite their change of nature, indeed despite their change of being, these people still played at the same game they had as mortals. Reality, unchanging. Life, erratic. In order for her to feed, Alessandro commissioned a pair of finger caps ending in razor-sharp tips and connected with a ring resting between Johnny's first and second knuckle. These talons, as she came to call them, can stimulate a vampire's bite quite well, but unfortunately they do not allow her to lick the wound closed, thus forcing her to gnaw and chew on the wound so that she may. Once her tutoring was done, including some vital lessons in bureaucracy, Alessandro let his child go, and she immediately left for Los Angeles, the glittering star of the West. LA is a city divided by conflict, the heart of the anarch-free states, yet constantly besieged by both Sabbat and Camarilla, not to mention the elusive vampires from Asia, the Wanquei, who have a vested interest in establishing a foothold on the West Coast. Not much of that matters to Johnny, however, who much more care about the art and chaos of the city. She is an anarch, if only because the freedom it gives her, and her ambitions are on a far grander scale than what any of the sects can offer. She wants to reshape Los Angeles into a city of theater, rivaling that of Chicago and New York, convinced that if she can simply show others the same vision, they will realize the brilliance of her plans. Johnny was quick to adapt to the ideology of vampire supremacy. She is convinced that upon achieving vampirism, she has attained the next step of human evolution, and she has difficulty relating to or caring too much about the mortals around her. Even so, the fact that she's half-finished, that her fangs are not developed, gnaws on her, and she constantly strives to improve herself to become a better vampire to compensate. One of the ways she has pursued this goal is through her interaction with certain members of other clans in Los Angeles. Clan Nosferatu in particular has attracted the Toreador's attention, and she, through careful manipulation and exchange of services, convinced one of their kind to teach her to use the discipline obfuscate. Perhaps it is her somewhat mysterious, if disarming demeanor, that made the so-called Bloodhound lower his guard, but regardless of her method, she was able to acquire the often jealously guarded discipline. This was not without its own issues, however, as Johnny soon found herself an unwilling accomplice in the embrace of another as a means of payback to the Nosferatu who had taught her. This child, created without her consent, grated upon Johnny's mind as, for the first time in almost longer than she could remember, she had been powerless. So, when given the opportunity to be alone with a woman, Johnny committed the amaranth, draining the fledgling of vitae and reclaiming what was hers. Naturally, this would not be without consequence, for it is a grave sin to consume the soul of another. The Bloodhound suspected Johnny of the crime, even though she claimed the child had met the son in grief of her condition. He nearly bashed her skull in, driving her into torpor before disappearing into the night with her unconscious body, unsure what to do with her. But he would not survive the night. Another one of her objects of interest, a young gangrel lost and confused, turned out to be another possibility to improve herself, to polish that unfinished gemstone and compensate for her own shortcomings. Michael, a fledgling embraced and abandoned, quickly fell for the enigmatic thespian, and the two shared blood on several occasions, the Toreador offering love and guidance in return for a share of his powers. Not knowing any better, and with the powerful bond of the blood over him, Michael could do naught but comply with his lover's request, and so did he teach her the foundations of Protean, Clan Gangrel's treasured discipline. Johnny presents an interesting perspective on Clan Toreador. She has little interest in politics or getting involved with the nightly affairs of other kindred, lest it serve her direct purpose, focusing instead on her art and on herself. To many kindred of Los Angeles, she is a mystery, speaking in metaphors and riddles, and she has often been mistaken for one of the Clan of the Moon. Yet beneath the surface rests a thirst for power, a deep frustration with being deprived of what truly belongs to her, and in time Johnye MacNamara's ambitions may outgrow her reach. This video was made possible thanks to 06, one of my supporters over at Patreon. As part of the Primogen tier, I create a personalized one-time video and also send out bi-monthly personal letters, correspondence between me and your characters. Thank you so much for your support. I wouldn't be able to do this without you, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Now be careful out there, for Gehenna may soon be upon us.